Pay the cash, take the daughter. Who knew? There was a group of sad little kids here, but his daughter was mysteriously missing. Old Huang restrained himself, telling his friend he wanted a Korean child. The seller mentioned a 9-year-old taken that morning, leaving Old Huang pale. He had a hunch that girl was his daughter, so he decided to whip out triple the cash to snag her. This price was definitely through the roof. Old Huang waited outside like a frantic bird on a power line. Every second felt like a decade in jail, but he kept his poker face. While inside, he was simmering like a volcano ready to blow. After what seemed like an eternity, Old Huang couldn't take it anymore. He marched back to the room like a boss. He kicked the door in, whipped out a photo of his daughter, and demanded, "Have you seen this little beauty?" A kid with a soccer ball stood up and said he saw the girl, claiming she was getting kicked around at the wolf den. Old Huang's heart dropped. Spotting the kid's freaky centipede-like stitches, he suddenly grasped what the surgery really meant and scanned the rest of the kids. He decided to let his buddy take the kids, but the kids didn't share, they stepped back instead. "Oh no!" The guards downstairs heard the noise and came running like a pack of wolves in sheep's clothing. Old Huang swiftly dealt with the guards and was about to call the cops when the butcher came barreling up the stairs like a bad joke. Knowing the butcher's reputation, he shoved the kid to his buddy, made a stay-back gesture, and stayed behind as the human shield. Old Huang's eyes were full of mischief, cautious as a cat about to jump into water, while the butcher looked like a lion on the hunt, deadly determined. They engaged in a dance of death in a 1-meter-wide hallway, blades clashing like they were on a wild roller coaster ride, and Old Huang was clearly not here for the long haul. After a brief clash, Old Huang finally seized the chance to shove the butcher back into the hallway like a dramatic plot twist. He slammed the iron door shut and locked it, letting out a sigh of relief once the butcher was sealed out. Then he shredded a window screen to make his getaway. By the time the butcher smashed through the door, Old Huang had vanished like a ghost, sprinting away like a wild stallion. Racing to find the dock, he was shocked to see the police dragging him away. Talk about bad luck. With no choice, Old Huang turned to flee, and that night, the police, like relentless hunting dogs, finally brought down that child captivity den. Word got to Chaffers headquarters, and the local big shot immediately ordered a manhunt for Old Huang at all costs. Bright and early, Old Huang drove to the eerie wolf den, which felt as lively as a freezer, with not a single soul in sight. Only 2 wild dogs leisurely strolled along the street, but soon he spotted a soccer kid and decided to give his broken English a try. A few bucks later, Old Huang learned about Chaffers' drug factory, disguised as a soccer field but really a den of sin. Instead of charging in, Old Huang took cover in an abandoned building across the street, like a little cat surveying the scene. Unbeknownst to him, the police were already waiting nearby. They knew all about Old Huang's wolf den hunt. To make matters worse, the butcher had burst into Chaffers' arms shop, grabbing a ton of weapons, and was racing towards the wolf den. While Old Huang was deep in thought about his action plan, a small head suddenly peeked out in front of him, sending a jolt of hope through him. See, could it be his daughter? His daughter was being carried away, and Old Huang charged down like he was on fire, spotting a van that filled him with dread. After seeing his daughter stuffed into the van, he revved up his engine and took off, but as he turned the corner, he sensed something was off. The van came to a halt, and his daughter was pulled away just like that. Old Huang couldn't react before the butcher popped up like a jack-in-the-box, clearly here to ruin his day. While dodging bullets, a cop car smashed right into him, causing his vehicle to spin out of control and crash into a junkyard. Luckily, Old Huang was fine, albeit a bit battered. He crawled out of the wreckage and saw the butcher surrounded by police, looking utterly confused. In that instant, he turned tail and ran, shooting off like an arrow towards the last spot he saw his daughter, like an astronaut lost in space. Meanwhile, though the butcher was fuming like a volcano, he lost his chance to strike thanks to Old Huang's speedy escape. He whipped out a grenade and tossed it at the stash of weapons, causing an earth-shattering explosion and turning the scene into utter chaos. Finally, just before they could operate on his daughter, Old Huang yanked out the Roman 4 like a pro and tenderly wiped her cuts like a doting mom, then bolted out of there. After nursing his own wounds through the pain, he tenderly cleaned his daughter, revealing the softer side of this killer. After everything was done, he reconnected with his buddy, ensuring the meetup details for the next day. His buddy told him to book a hotel under Lijisai. This way, someone would contact him, and his buddy was also ready to bolt because Old Huang had really upped the ante this time. What they didn't know was that the butcher, like a madman, stormed into Chaffers' house, grenades hanging off him like holiday decorations. Chaffer, ready to settle the score with Old Huang, briefly chatted with the butcher, and they came to an agreement to find Old Huang and send him to the afterlife. The next day, Old Huang arrived at the hotel with his now awake daughter, checking in under Liji's eye like a pro. The moment he stepped into the room, Old Huang flicked the lights on, eagerly waiting for the call like a kid on Christmas morning, and thankfully, the phone rang soon. After setting a time and place, Old Huang called Yuyi, hoping he could keep his daughter company, but there was no answer. Left with no choice, Old Huang left a voicemail and exited like a dad who went out for cigarettes. Before heading out, his daughter extended her arms for a hug, hitting Old Huang right in the feels. He held back tears, comforted her, and shut the door behind him. Everything went smoothly, and he joyfully met up with the guy, exchanged cash, and set a boat date at 5 p.m., sprinting back to the hotel like a kid sliding down a... However, the very moment old Huang arrived at the entrance of the hotel, he suddenly sensed an unusual atmosphere. Several unfamiliar burly men in the lobby were staring at him with strange expressions, as if silently declaring, "Today, you are the one I am looking for. My target is you." He sensed someone was inside and boldly pushed the door open, only to find the butcher lounging on the couch, like a plot twist from a family movie.